Welcome to the Junto Podcast, where we promote the practical applications of critical thought and bold creativity. I'm your host, Edgar Mills. Hey America, welcome to the bonus episode. Today I want to do an episode before Christmas. I want to get this out here. I'm going to post a blog later on today or tomorrow, but I want to talk about the two epic philosophies. One of Christianity, because I consider myself a Christian man, and two, Objectivism, the philosophy created and pushed by Ayn Rand, a noted atheist. So let's get into it and give you something to think about over the holidays. So are they compatible? Can you believe in both? Or are they complementary? I think they are. I think they are complementary. Objectivism, we all know that Ayn Rand is a champion of the individual, of the achievement of man, the individual man. And the individual life of that man is his standard of value, to live for himself, to be as good as he can be, to create things not for some altruistic reason or for other people, but to create as well as he can possibly create. And that in itself is the value of life. Now, so obviously we think that, some people, Christians, think that there's more to it than that. And there is more to it than that. But Rand pushes personal achievement, self-reliance, and your individual right to your own achievements in your own existence. Now, many critics of Ayn Rand argue that she simply polishes up and formalizes selfishness. But I'm here to share with you folks that selfishness is good if it's for the purpose of making yourself whole and complete and better. Because I firmly believe that if you are as good as you can be, then you will be good for everyone else. So, Ayn Rand was not a collectivist in any way. She escaped Soviet Russia and was a staunch critic and opponent of communism. And some people accuse Christianity of not communism, but some kind of socialistic form of operating, whereas it's a collective that helps people and things like that. But I don't think that's right either. Because Christianity, if anything, is nothing more than a form of voluntarism. Yes, unregulated organization that volunteers to help other people, not by government coercion. So yeah, Christianity takes in account the collective good. And the collective good, I don't think it takes precedence over the individual good, because I've done it before, folks. I've gone to my preacher as a broken individual and asked for help to work on myself as an individual. So, at any rate, the differences are, I don't want to say stark, somewhat stark, but let's get into some of the similarities. Well, you know what? Not even similarities, just some of the things that kind of complement each other. Now, objectivists, hardcore objectivists, especially the hyper-intellectual types, regard reason as absolute, right? All knowledge is based in evidence, tangible evidence, conclusions that are reached by logical methods, scientific methods, and tested by logical and scientific methods, and verified, if only by peer review. Mathematics, for instance, is objective, right? The numbers add up or they do not. There is no faith in math. I mean, at some point there is, because the numbers get so long that humans can't really keep up with that level of calculation. At any rate, scientific approach, right? Everything is scientific, logical approach. There is no thoughts to faith. That's how hardcore intellectual objectivists view everything. Well, maybe they say they do. I hold that most atheists aren't atheists, but we can get into that in another podcast. And then there's the faithful, right? The folks who follow by blind faith, who may do everything based on faith, and that's not necessarily correct either. However, the foundation there is not evidence-based at all. Well, not tangible evidence. If someone tells you that they had a intervening of the Spirit, right? If they felt the presence of God, well, cynical people might think they're lying or embellishing or something like that. But who are you to say they didn't? And the way they felt is the way they felt. Whether you give any validity to it or not, the fact is they felt something. And you may try to explain it away as something else. A lot of critics try to explain a lot of things away in the Bible according to our own understanding today. And most notably, what I'm thinking about right now is the burning bush, right? And they say, well, he was probably on some kind of drugs, and then the bush appeared to be burning, and it was hot, and these things. So, applying that kind of evidence-based fact hunting to the Bible may or may not hold water, but at any rate, who are you to tell a person they did or didn't feel the Spirit of the Lord? They felt something, right? As a cynic, you may say it was not the Lord, it was just something else, but I believe that is real. So evidence comes in different forms for the faithful, and not necessarily hard, tangible forms. Cynics will write off faith as just an arbitrary mental episode, right? An arbitrary exercise of the mind, where it's based on subjective emotions rather than physical, objective evidence. So without any cognitive effort required to achieve any rational certainty, then rational objectivists feel like, how can it mean anything? But it can. It can. Reason and faith are two different things that I think one needs the other. I think one needs the other. Both need the other. For some people, religion is not just a belief about the world or God. Now, there's a lot of different religions, folks, and there's a lot of different people that place faith in different things. For the sake of today, we're talking about Christianity specifically. But we Christians believe in a spiritual sort of realm as well. And you can't apply reason to that, really. There's no tangible evidence of that other than, like I said, if you have an interaction with the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, you have to be sensitive to what that is. But as Christians, also, you believe that there's more to life, right, than just what you do on earth and material possessions, especially, but what you leave behind, right? How you've helped the people around you. And then that this life is just a stop off to a long-term eternal life. Whereas objectivists absolutely don't believe that. And objectivists will define, spiritual or values in more secular ways, and that you can find that spiritual awakening on earth here in various things that make you happy, right? Art, wine, etc. Spiritual values are things that, from an objectivist perspective, spiritual values are things that pertain to like the needs of the human consciousness, the capacity for creativity and free will and self-awareness and those kinds of things. So, and that's where things like love and comes into play, and self-esteem. How can you place a tangible love can't be reasoned, folks, by the way. That is purely faith. But philosophies and things like that, these are where the spiritual, for an objectivist, art, love, philosophy, things like this, there has to be some kind of recognition of some spiritual point of view there. So objectivism and practical daily use, I think, is very important. I think we need to reason out things and understand the why of why things are the way they are, or why people are acting or doing or making decisions, what they're basing that on, what tangible evidence are they acting on. We need that in today's society, especially. And so I'm all about the individual, the spirit of man, the triumph of man. I'm all about it. I love it. I loved it in Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead. I thought that Howard Rourke, he was the protagonist in that book, and I thought he encapsulated it. I thought it was awesome. I liked the whole storyline. He's trying to create a monument to man. Now, Christians will argue that you put no false idols, worship no false idols and things like that. But to create a monument to man is not necessarily a worship, right? It's just an appreciation. I think there's a difference there. But objectivism celebrates and kind of does, maybe worship a little bit, the grandeur of the human spirit, achievement of mankind. And that is secular for sure. Because in the Christian religion, all worship goes to God, right? All reverence goes to God and no one else. But again, that doesn't mean you can't appreciate these things. And as an objectivist, that doesn't mean you can't acknowledge that, like, potentially there is a God and he is worthy of our worship. I happen to believe in creationism and the, what do you call it? All right, the catchphrase is escaping me right now, but I'll get back to it. Intelligent design. There we go. Intelligent design. You know, I listen to Hugh Ross, Reasons to Believe. And there are as many holes in the theory of evolution as there are in the theory of creationism. There are as many holes. And Hugh Ross is a astronomer, a physicist. He's got PhDs in various things. He adds the scientific, the astrological answers to these questions about the creation of man, the existence of the earth. And again, there's as many gaps in one theory as there is the other. So even when these objectivists or these hardcore atheists want to argue that you can't prove the existence of God, well, as much evidence as there is for certain evolution, you certainly can't prove evolution either. It's still a theory, by the way, folks. Unless I missed some news along the way, there's still big gaping holes in that as well. And that doesn't mean they're mutually exclusive. I don't believe. Creationism, the how versus the why, right? How we grew as a species. I mean, yes, evolution makes sense for a lot of things. That doesn't mean there was just an explosion. And even if there was just an explosion, who are you to say, well, you're an objectivist, right? To say that God didn't create that Big Bang. So at any rate, I equate not objectivism, but atheism specifically heavily to cynicism. Heavily. Now, I've been a cynic the vast majority of my life, and I'm trying to get over that these days, but it comes from a negative place, I believe. And I don't believe, if you get down to it, that a professed atheist is living their best life. I don't believe they're truly as happy as they could be if they would open up to the idea and spirituality, specifically Christianity, but more spirituality. Because you see, a lot of these atheists will readily acknowledge all these other religions as well. But then you take an intellectual American atheist, and they only seem to want to poo-poo on Christianity. I wonder why that is. Objectivism, it's an idealistic philosophy for sure that affirms that mankind is the capacity for achievement is unrivaled. And it is true. Christians just happen to believe that capacity for man to achieve is founded through the blessings of God. So I believe in both, right? I believe in objectivism and Christianity, and I believe they are compatible. I believe that one of the most famous holy men and philosophers was Thomas Aquinas, and much of his philosophy revolved around that knowledge, there's natural and revealed knowledge. Natural knowledge being more like objectivism, where there's hard facts and things like that. And then the revealed knowledge is what you get from reading scripture, from divine revelation, from, spiritual awakenings and those types of things. Meditation and time with God, time with the Word, and that kind of thing. So again, they're not mutually exclusive, I don't think. And I think in especially in Aquinas' writings, I think you can find that they very much are supporting each other. Now, he leans obviously heavily on just the blanket fact that God exists and God is our salvation and Jesus is our salvation. But the way he goes about it, I think is more, the way Aquinas goes about it, I think is more in line with, is something you could talk to an objectivist about, especially an atheist objectivist about. So, and Aquinas uses a certain analogy about a journey, right, to explain the relationship of faith versus reason. And he says that reason is a guide that helps us navigate the physical world, physically, right? Navigate the physical world, while faith is like a guide that takes us to higher spiritual truth. And I want to liken that to mountain climbing, folks. It's a physical journey to get up a mountain, to climb the mountain. But when you get to the peak of that mountain, it's a little bit spiritual. There's a spiritual awakening there, or at least an appreciation for the creation, right? God's creation. When you're at the peak of a mountain in the Rockies or the Alps, you can't help but to feel very small and very insignificant among God's creation. Now, whether you acknowledge it's God's creation or just some happenstance through cells that evolved into the greatness before you, you do have to acknowledge that there is a greatness before you. It's magnificent. It's hard to explain. When you're there, the feeling is all-encompassing, and you have to take a moment, appreciate the silence and look out and see what's going on out there. It's truly majestic. It is truly majestic. So faith and reason walk hand in hand, I believe. Again, the why versus the how. I don't think you're not dumb for believing in God. A fictional character, some cynics would carry on about. You're not dumb for believing that Jesus was the Son of God and is how we get to heaven. You're not dumb for believing in heaven. You are a cynical asshole for not acknowledging that there is some other possibility beyond what you're textbook told you. So think about those things for Christmas times, folks. I know that wasn't very joyous, but it was on me. And I'm going to put a paper on the website here in a little bit. Objectivism and Christianity, are they compatible? I think they are. And I think both are worth taking much deeper dives into. You can find a lot of good stuff about objectivism on the Atlas Society. And obviously Christianity is everywhere. You can find good stuff on it. Most people just blanket reject to go do any research on Christianity. But if you care about philosophy and if you want to be a well-rounded human being, whether you agree or disagree, you will read at least Thomas Aquinas, for instance. It will broaden your mind. You can still choose to be an atheist, or if you like, but there's nothing wrong with broadening your mind. So anyway, again, think about these things, folks. Here at Christmas time, yes, you can carry on about whether or not this is a pagan holiday and this and that, but generally speaking, we attribute it to Jesus' birth, even though the calendars don't add up and all those things. But again, if you're a Christian, this is a special time of year. Even for other cultures, they still celebrate Christmas, or at least celebrate something at Christmas time. So don't be a cynic over the next couple weeks. Just lighten up a little bit. Be friendly with other folks. Have some good spirit. Attempt a selfless act. Though that might seem contrary to Ayn Rand beliefs, there's nothing wrong with being selfless of your own accord, as long as you're not being coerced, right? If you choose to do it, you chose to do it. If you want to go help someone, do it. I encourage it. And selfishly, it feels good. Yeah. It feels good to help other people. So maybe that's the selfish reason to do a selfless act. Anyway, objectivism and Christianity, are they compatible? Go check it out. Read a little more for yourself and see what you think. And hey, give me some feedback. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. Merry Christmas. The next podcast will be out in mid-January, and I'm always posting essays on the website. Please follow, please share, please spread the word. And again, take care and Merry Christmas.